Red Raiders primed for a breakout season. Some unknown, some known.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Now the number one sports podcast network in the world. Thanks as always for making us your first listen with the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you. And on today's episode, we are looking ahead to the fall, and this is an exciting conversation because we're talking about some Red Raiders primed to break out in 2026. Was texting back and forth with one of our mobsters this week, Trent, asking about some names on either side of the football, really whatever phase of the game, that may be in the category of known, but possibly more unknown as we sit here now. We've had some examples of this in the past where, man, a season goes by and you're talking about a dude in a way that you weren't preseason-wise. Like, this man is now a known commodity, where before we're having to remember maybe what the name is, what the number is. We'll get to some examples from a year gone by and some answers on both sides of the line of scrimmage. And I kind of wonder if maybe there's something out there that's sort of being under-discussed, possibly among Red Raider fans like myself. But like I said, there's some examples of this from years gone by, Chris, and there's going to be some that I don't want to say come out of nowhere, but maybe just haven't done it in a way they have before or on this level, and are going to be heavy hitters for the Red Raiders. Tends to always work out that way.
I mean, this is the Cam Dickey conversation. Cam Dickey was your third string running back midway through August last year. He finished the season with over 1,000 yards rushing and was all conference and was one of the brightest spots, I don't know, on your team. So, and anybody suggesting in mid-August that he was going to do any of the things that he would go on to do, you'd have been like, "Hey, man, you related to him? Or, whatever."
Right. We have family members in the comments sometimes.
Yes, right, okay.
And I was asking you, Chris, at that time, the conversation, if I remember correctly, was kind of like, he needs a bounce back, sort of. Like, there were things out of his control injury-wise, but it wasn't the debut season we thought we were going to get just prior.
No, I mean, yeah, he dealt with some hamstring issues and just was kind of – I think they always liked the player. Cam is an awesome kid. But, I mean, I'm talking like he kind of ended up being your bell cow running back and was exceptional at this. And he had explosive runs. He had the grinded out runs. He was just consistent. And he finishes up the year as like this second team or first team all conference type player, and then that conversation. And I think looking ahead to this upcoming season, he's probably, him and LJ Martin are likely to be, first team running backs. Now this is a pretty salty year for running backs in this league. There's been several good ones added and whatnot, but I mean, it's just 1,000 yards plus is 1,000 yards plus. Point of this is, at this point a year ago, what kind of conversations would we have been having about certain players off the portal? Guys are easy. They are, and I'm going to use a couple of those examples to that because these are under the radar portal additions. Okay, there's some of them that are no brainers. Okay, like, well, of course they're going to be good. That's not going to shock anybody. But who's on this team that maybe people don't know a lot about that could have a massive impact? And I think Cam Dickey had a massive impact.
Yeah, that's a great example.
Yeah.
Out of necessity almost, because you're right. Third string running back with a healthy Quentin Joyner.
Yeah.
We were talking about last year.
And let's just for purposes of this conversation, let's just start right there. Let's just start right freaking there, because what has happened is Jacoby and Cam, they are made men. These are true sophomores. They have done it. They have done it consistently. They have been on this rise. They are real dudes. Okay, they are really good football players. They check every box. They're like the developed kind, and they're just on this arc of like, man, how good could they be? And what is fascinating about this conversation is one of the names I feel like I have to absolutely mention, because I just think so many people forget that he's on the team. We don't, but people around the league are like, who's this guy? And that's Quentin Joyner. So he needs to be, it's like this he has got to be in this conversation. And what's fascinating is he was he was being hunted, back in mid-August before he went down, by Cam and Jacoby, and he was here in the spring and all that. He was going to be the starting running back. I firmly believe that. I don't know if anybody like would say that or whatever. I firmly believe, like without a doubt, he was going to be the starter, and I think Jacoby would have been like the compliment, and then Cam would have been third. And now Quentin Joyner has gone from, okay, these guys are chasing me, to now he's chasing them. He's chasing Cam Dickey. He's got to earn his coach's trust. He's got to trust his knee. He's got to, all the things. If he is like 90 to 95% of what he was, or close to that, you just have three dynamic starting running backs that can do different things, and boy, are you going to lean on them. But Quentin Joyner is a name that I feel like that probably wasn't who I was going to start this conversation out with, but since we were talking about the Cam Dickey example, I just don't know how, because I just think there's a lot of people around the league that forgot that he's still here, or don't know that he ever was here, whatever. But I mean, Cowan, a year ago, we're talking about, is he a one and done? I mean, there was lists being put out on social media like he could be a draft pick like immediately, and I'm like, damn, man, we didn't even see the guy carry the football one time yet here, and So anyway, so there's that. The other one on offense, because we've got a special category at the tail end of this thing, but the other one on offense, and we talked about him at the tail end of spring. I'm curious if people are ready for this player to potentially take a starting role, to be one of the more heralded acquisitions at this particular position, to I don't know, unseat somebody that you just thought like, oh wow, this is and do you know where I'm going? You know who I'm going to say yet?
You've got me spinning. No, I don't.
Jaylen Jones. Jaylen Jones, the I don't know, lightly recruited HBCU type player. I just think he came in and he ran around, and he caught again, and he did it consistently. And if he stays with this trend, it's not going to surprise me a bit if not only if he starts, but if he stars.
Yeah.
Wow. And he's again, and we're not there yet. We've got to do it in September and October and the things, but I think he could be this, because if you go back and listen to what everybody talked about and what everybody said, the hardest thing to earn is the respect of your peers. Go back and listen to what all those players said, man. Hey, who's giving you trouble? Hey, who's sticking out to you? Who's standing out to you? Who's this? Who's that? Jaylen Jones, man. Jaylen Jones. So anyway, that's good for offense for now.
I think that was a popular name that was getting some attention from fans that just had even a glimpse of anything in the spring exhibition or whatever. We've heard a lot about the explosiveness. So I didn't expect that name to come out here, but maybe it's an odds-on favorite to be in this category.
And I'd be willing to bet you that most, of course, hey, Malcolm Simmons coming from Auburn, Kenny Johnson coming from Pitt. And I still think I said like Kenny is your most well-rounded go-to guy, the whole thing. But, Dante Lee, this was just the least heralded of your 4 receiver ads. He's not the biggest kid, but he can fly. I think he made a ton of plays. I think he earned a ton of respect. This to me is like I don't know, let's just call it a James Blanchard or a personnel department special here, because this is like one of those that I think has a chance. I'd be willing to bet you that he's not breaking the bank, but I bet that this is a dude that we all hear from quickly come the fall. How about that?
I am making a note. I do want to get back to maybe an answer on the offensive side that might be in the category of one we most want to be the Red Raider prime for a breakout in just a minute. But can you take us to the defensive side of things? Are there some names that stand out to you, front, middle, back end?
I have said on various radio interviews or just in conversations with friends, we start talking about returning starters and all this and that. One of the things I've tried to point out, because you do return a lot on this team, I just don't think people realize it. Both your tackles, the offensive tackles return, like the AJ Holmes component, these linebackers that return, that played so much football for you. But one of the things that I think has just kind of gone under the radar is the fact that you bring back both starting corners, Bryce Pollock and Amir Boyd. However,
first, today's episode brought to you by Wayfair. It's the perfect time to reset your routine and refresh your space, and that means it's time to turn to Wayfair, your one-stop shop for getting your home on track. From bedding and mattresses to storage solutions for every room, every size, Wayfair makes it easy to start the year fresh. Wayfair has everything you need for a full home refresh all in one place. Whether you're updating your living room, organizing your cluttered spaces, or upgrading your work from home setup, Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find exactly what works for your style and budget. And with Wayfair, you can count on the shopping to be easy, smooth delivery, and everything arriving exactly as expected. Get organized, refreshed, and back on track for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's wayfair.com, Wayfair.com, wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home.
However,
lean in.
Well, what if I were to tell you that? What if I were to say that Davin Martin beats out Amir Boyd? I mean, that's a historically good defense last year. This was a starting corner that I think was pretty good. Not the biggest guy. And so Amir and Martin got all the reps in the spring. I guess my point of what I'm trying to say is that I think that you very, very clearly have 3 starting corners, okay? And Martin is going to be a guy that pops off on NFL radars because he's a bigger kid, man. I mean, we're talking 6'2"-ish, if just a bit, and can flat out run, maybe a bit taller. I think if you remember back to when he was added, there was some discussion amongst the portal conversations nationally and all that with how some of this was being reported. But I think Texas Tech was attached to a few other Big 12 corners specifically, and I tend to think they chose Davin Martin over those guys. To which you go, wait, there's some starters in the Big 12, and you're going to take this kid from UTSA. One, you have an in because Joey knows Coach Traylor and all that stuff, but I'm just not so certain that they aren't. This is another personnel department special, I guess, or James Blanchard special, I guess, if you want to say it that way. But it's not going to shock me a bit if he ends up being a starter for you. And I don't know if many people are expecting that or would be anticipating that. But be ready for that at some point.
Interesting. He's a name I brought up several times just in kind of getting glimpses at him physically. Has been noticeable among that group. So That's not all that makes it go, obviously, as a cornerback, but you can't teach size also. So he stands out for no other reason, just there.
And like, I just don't think that there's anybody in our circles or viewers, listeners, or people that write about this stuff or talk about it, all that stuff, that when the team got put together back in early January, here's our recruiting class, here's our portal class, all that anybody was suggesting Jaylen Jones could be a starter, Davin Martin could be a starter. No. But I think post-spring, I think that they both could be in a manageable situation to be able to do just that and like excel at it. Okay.
Well, the cornerback combo is even more interesting to me because at the wide receiver position, you just got so much damn opportunity. I'm like, well, anybody could wind up surprising us as a starter because you've got casting calls all over, maybe save for a Coy Aiken spot, maybe. But I want to get back to that group, by the way. But defensively, Chris, I would have said early on in kind of the portal cycle or right when it was concluding that Mateen Igbarogba might have been the kind of name that could be in this category. He's been talked about so much since then, though. I don't even feel like that's a good answer anymore because it seems like everybody's expecting him to be a man on the inside.
The other name we'll get to in a little bit for those same kind of reasons won't necessarily. Yeah, it's like a weird to answer the question.
Yeah,
but because let's staying on Davin Martin real quick before we get to the other defensive guy. I mean, Dante Balfour was the starter at the beginning of the season, and then he wasn't. I mean, and Amir basically started. I have to go back and look to be for sure, but I mean, he started 7, 8, 9 games or whatever it was. And I mean, and I'm not saying that that's what's. I'm just the whole point here is I think Jaylen Jones, you hit, Davin Martin, you hit. And if they end up starting for you, not going to shock this guy. And I think they will have, and some of this will need to play out into the season. That's just like the Balfour thing. That's just kind of how it works. Injuries factor in. How much camp time did you miss if you got dinged up? I mean, there's all that stuff. But we're talking here in mid-May. All right, the next one. I'm getting close to calling my shot here on what I think the lone question you have, because I don't see that Amir Boyd and Davin Martin is some question mark. I think you're very fortunate because Bryce Pollock is absolutely starting corner. I just think you have 3 starting corners. However, we do have a question about who this other safety is going to be. Okay, that's the one spot really on the entire team other than quarterback now, for different reasons, that we're just not sure about. I'm ready to call my shot right now because I think that we have a future household name that is ready to emerge, and I'm going to compare him to somebody that played here recently, played under Joey, so it's not that far away, and is a current NFLer. What if I were to suggest that not only does Peyton Morgan play safety for you, what if he is close to the interception leader in the Big 12 conference? You know, because so if he's playing one of the safeties, you're going to move Brendan Jordan over to what Cole Wisniewski did a year ago. Okay, more of that, you know, hybrid, closer to the line of scrimmage type safety, run support guy, and all that stuff. Because what Peyton Morgan is a ball hawk. This is somebody that I think tallied like 9 interceptions his senior season. Joey talks about this all the time. I think this kid has better skills at the same time in their careers than Rabbit did, and that's the comparison I would love to make to you. Dadrion Taylor Demerson, and that's I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. Like, you know, and I see Rabbit all the time. I saw him in Tempe the night that JT Toppin went down, unfortunately, but because he plays for the Arizona Cardinals, but. That was one football playing dude, man. Rabbit could just do everything. He's the Swiss Army knife component. There was just, you know, a little bit of everything. He ended a TCU game here a few years ago. picking off a pass at the very end. I mean, he just kind of like had these great ball skills, kind of a leadership component back there. I just think Peyton Morgan is getting started, but I think that he's further along and potentially got some more upside than Rabbit did at the same time in their careers. But I think he may get the nod. That's just me, and I think he was the biggest reason why maybe you stayed internal with your safety candidates. You flirted with it, and then you're like, no, man, we're good. We're gonna do this thing internally. Because I think Coy Parrott's the Oregon kid. He's potentially a first or second round draft pick this next year. Okay, that's who you had on a visit. But I think that should tell you a lot about Peyton Morgan and Malika Skara, Oliver Miles, the Bradshaw. I was about to say Aaron Bradshaw is what I meant. So anyway, you got a lot to like. But yeah, I'm going with Peyton Morgan there.
I thought Peyton Morgan maybe was an answer to the guy that would fill that spot, but I'm excited all over to hear you talk about maybe how he can thrive in that. So any comparison to Rabbit is fantastic, which, by the way, I would add to his player profile. I think it all started with incredible effort. I remember early in his career thinking, this is one of our best football players, and what I really love about him most is he plays as hard or harder than anybody on the team. I still remember, I think it was against Iowa State, he had some crazy forced fumble where it required him to like teleport or time travel to get there. No, it was actually just great effort. And man, it's really nice when you got leaders and talented guys playing with that kind of effort. So I hope Morgan is going to be replicating that if he winds up being the dude. All right, that's exciting to think about. The other thing I wanted to ask you about before we wrap this thing up is maybe a name that is most hoped to be a Red Raider that's primed to break out. He's not an unknown to known category guy. We know the name Micah Hudson. First, today's episode brought to you by Rocket Money. Ever feel like your money can disappear each month? It can happen fast. A few subscriptions here, impulse buy there. Suddenly the numbers in your bank account don't match the numbers in your head. Rocket Money helps you get clarity, track every dollar, and stay in control of your finances, because managing your money shouldn't feel like a second job. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you so you can save more and stress less. Rocket Money will find subscriptions you forgot you were paying for and help you clean them all up quickly. And seeing all of your spending on one dashboard makes it easier to understand where your money is going. Plus, it's great how Rocket Money automatically builds budgets based on past spending and keeps you on track without overthinking it. And with the app, you're going to find good times to save each month and keep consistent with your financial goals. Take control of your finances and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Today's episode brought to you by Indeed. And hiring isn't just about finding somebody willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually make a hand in moving your business forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed sponsored jobs is the only move to make. Instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post randomly, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, whether it's a skill set, specific certifications, location, or more. And that saves massive time because you're spending less energy sorting through mismatches and focusing only on those candidates who are actually a fit. Here's proof in the pudding that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies just like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. And right now, Locked On Texas Tech listeners will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. He's not an unknown to known category guy. We know the name Micah Hudson, but I don't know if you were polling generally Red Raiders as to who they would most like to see become a reliable kind of household guy, if you'd come up with somebody that was mentioned more often than Micah Hudson. I know if I was just saying, man, give me one to have a great year and break out, I'd probably say Micah Hudson, but I guess I'm kind of wondering, is that Is that Fantasyland talk? Is that a pipe dream, or some of this offseason momentum maybe going to mean something this fall?
So I, for purposes of our conversation here, because when I saw this question by the folks in the mob there that were, was just pondering that Micah's really the first name that came to mind. Like, I'm almost willing to. I'm just trying to think of how to phrase it. It's pretty close to a lock that he's going to factor in. And I guess that's where we have to try to define heavily, or like, is he gonna be like an all Big 12 type guy like Cam was, or is it just like, is he going to announce his his arrival with a lot of fanfare, or is he just going to kind of be a guy in the rotation and all that? And I don't guess I have a good feel for that, but I think the days are over of him sitting over there on the sideline. Okay. I can't sit here and suggest yet that he'll be featured, that he'll start, that I just know that his time is now. And he's been very under the radar. I think he's done everything that was asked of him internally. He hasn't talked to the media since he's really, I guess, been back. Joey first brought up his story or whatever at the beginning of spring. I guess it was. I'm trying to remember exactly when he just kind of was like, you know what? I had never talked about this before. Here's the deal. Here's what happened. Here's kind of what my thoughts were. And Joey took a lot of the blame, and we remember this, right? And it was like we kind of knew the story or kind of what happened. But what has happened since then is like Jaylen Jones, and probably more so than Jaylen Jones. I left him out of that conversation earlier because I knew we were going to get to this. Micah's name was probably the most mentioned name of anybody from player or coach that was mentioned in the spring. Is that fair? I mean, I think we heard it from the head coach, the position coach, the defensive coaches, the quarterback. Yeah. The just defensive guys, just the thing. Because I think he's earned respect. I think he has kept his head down and just grinded and worked. And we know the talent. That's why it's hard to let go, because everybody knows his name. This isn't like everybody knows he's on this team, but that's who I really wanted to answer. But for purposes of the conversation, we kind of stretched it out a bit. But yeah, this is a different. You know what? Micah probably belongs in the same category as like your man Mateen Igbarogba. Like, there's an expectation there. Like, well, of course they're supposed to do something. So it's hard to like answer like nobody. I mean, Mateen Igbarogba was one of the top interior defensive linemen in the portal last year. Well, it's like, and I think that people are seeing him on these PFF grade lists, these mock drafts, all the things, and they're like, dang. I think we might have done pretty good with the old portal haul. Yeah, you think? Yeah, I think you probably did. So yeah, maybe we can keep Micah and Mateen over there off to the side and put them in their own category of haven't done it here yet, but guess what? It's happening. It's gonna happen.
All right, I'm glad to not be shot down on that pie in the sky or not so much kind of thought. But you saw what the reaction is like when the guy would just trot out onto the field. And I don't think the fans have forgotten his name. They haven't forgotten the prospect ranking and all that stuff. I think we know the other stuff that we want to see him get around and actually get to play in football. But he'll be under a microscope. I have no doubt about that, and would love to see him really break out. And yeah, when we're talking breakout, I think we have to talk approaching like all conference type of consideration. Even if you don't quite make the third team, you need to be in that kind of convo. That's what I'm thinking when we talk breakout.
Which is going to be hard to do for him at that position, just because there's so many other guys like around him. And like what Cam benefited from is it's like there was an injury, and so there was, like, I think you said a while ago, had no choice.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? You're going to have to play. You're going to have to figure it out, like, right now. Like, we're not negotiating this. Like, this is like, no, you're figuring it out. You're going to understand. And I remember even at the start of the season last year with Cam, remember we talked about they were just running. They take the handoff and just smash into the line. And then, like, as the game 2 or 3 got here, Garrett McGuire was talking a lot to the media about patience. Yeah, and then next thing you know, it's like, it's like, oh my gosh, the seas parted. The line was seemingly blocking better. Well, a lot of it is these kids started getting patient and, like, kind of waiting for things to develop, and then it looked like Taj Brooks all over again. And that was, I think, Garrett and Cam and Jacoby all kind of figuring out. So some of what I'm telling you may not happen immediately. Maybe it's into the season a bit, and that's okay. But Micah and Jaylen too, there's a lot around them, at least now, that we would foresee. So it's going to be hard to be, like, showcased and isolated on and all the things that, like, now Peyton Morgan, though, he might have a chance. Same with Mr. Martin over there at corner, so.
I mean, exciting to think about those guys, because you need big shoes to be filled. And whether it's with cornerback depth or a starter, obviously the safety spot we're talking about is starter. And from a wide receiver standpoint, you want some explosions. So if these things come to fruition, man, that's going to be really fun in the fall, as they still remain kind of murky waters right now. But there's a couple of things to consider. And let us know maybe what names stand out to you in the YouTube comment section. Fire us off a text if you're in the Matador Mob. All right, good stuff, Chris. Appreciate the time to check in on this convo, and looking forward to more this week. So we'll see you for the next one.
Breakout stars, man. I enjoyed it. Yeah, let's do it. Let's hope all of them become this. But we'll look back on this and see if any of our list hits. But I feel pretty good about it, at least in mid-May. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out and what develops.
Appreciate you, and appreciate everybody for being out there. Get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Thanks to the Everydayers for always riding along. And if that's you, check out the newly launched Everydayer Club, $5 a month, ad-free audio episodes, and exclusive access to the Locked On Network Discord, linked in the show notes. Also in the show notes, a link to a free 14-day trial to check out the Matador Mob, your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks as always for the time. We hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.